The warship shook as another explosion tore through its shields. Commander Daesung gripped the metal railing and watched the battle unfold through the wide viewing screen. He had seen many battles in his 42 years, but this one was different. This one was pathetic. The alien fleet moved in perfect formation. Their ships gleamed silver and blue, beautiful even as they retreated. Every movement was coordinated. Every shot was calculated. And they were losing. Again, Daesung's cybernetic left arm whirred softly as he made notes on his datapad. He was here as an observer, nothing more. The Galactic Concordat had invited humanity to watch their military operations. They wanted advice. They wanted to learn. What they really needed, Daesung thought, was a miracle. On the planet below, 3 colonies were being abandoned. Millions of people were fleeing to transport ships. The enemy was coming, and the Concordat fleet could not stop them. Would not stop them, because stopping them would require fighting in ways the Concordat considered wrong. Commander Daesung. The voice was soft and clicking, like wind chimes made of chitin. High Chancellor Velomora approached him on 6 legs, her insectoid body moving with grace. Your thoughts on the battle? Daesung did not soften his words. You are losing because you refuse to win. Velmora's antenna twitched. We fight with honor. We do not slaughter. We do not destroy what can be preserved. And how many colonies have you lost this year? Daesung asked. 17. Velmora's voice was heavy with grief. 17 worlds. Millions displaced. But we have not lost our souls. Daesung turned to face her fully. High Chancellor, in 6 months the Wrath will reach your core worlds. Your home world. Where your children live. What good is your soul if everyone you love is dead or enslaved? The bridge fell silent. Other Concordat officers stared at him, some with anger, some with something that looked like fear, because they knew he was right. Velomora did not speak for a long moment. When she did, her voice was barely a whisper. Come to the council chamber. We must talk. The council chamber was a beautiful room. Curved walls displayed art from 12 different civilizations. Soft light came from bioluminescent panels. It was a room built for peace, for discussion, for beings who had never known real war. Around the curved table sat representatives from all 12 species of the Concordat. Daesung had studied them all. The moth people who communicated through scent, the crystalline ones who thought in mathematical harmony, the water breathers who needed special tanks, all of them peaceful, all of them dying. We have heard rumors, began Representative Cleth, his rocky body grinding softly as he spoke. Rumors that humanity is aggressive. Daesung almost smiled. Aggressive. Such a gentle word for what humanity really was. We have fought wars for thousands of years, he said simply. We are very good at it. We do not wish to become conquerors, said Velomora. We want tactical advice, training, help in developing better strategies within our rules of engagement. Your rules of engagement are why you are losing, Daesung said. He pulled up a hologram showing the last 5 battles. You announce your attacks in advance. You allow enemy evacuations. You target only military installations. You treat wounded enemies the same as your own people. You apologize when you damage civilian structures by accident. These are the foundations of civilized warfare, protested Ambassador Yerath, a flowing being of pure energy. These are the foundations of defeat, Daesung replied. He switched the hologram to show Wrath battle tactics. Your enemy does none of these things. They strike without warning. They take no prisoners. They use your civilians as shields. They turn your compassion into a weapon against you. The council members shifted uncomfortably. They knew this. They had seen it. They had suffered from it. What do you propose? Asked Velomora quietly. You do not need advice, Daesung said. You need us to fight your war. The room erupted. Voices rose in protest. The idea of hiring mercenaries was shameful. The thought of letting another species fight their battles was cowardice. Daesung waited for the noise to fade. We are not mercenaries. Humanity does not fight for money. We fight as allies or we do not fight at all. Then as allies, Velomora said. You would help us? Yes, but there is a price. Name it. Complete operational command of all military forces. Human and Concordat. No restrictions on our tactics. No rules of engagement except what we decide. You will not question our methods. You will not interfere with our operations. You give us the war and we will win it. The silence that followed was absolute. Daesung had just asked them to surrender the one thing they valued more than victory itself: control, dignity, the moral high ground. "You ask us to become monsters," whispered Representative Cleth. "No," Daesung said. "I ask you to let us be the monsters for you. When this is over, you can go back to being who you were. We are used to carrying the weight." He had seen it in their eyes during the battle, the small spark of hope beneath the horror. They wanted to live. They wanted their children to live. Everything else was negotiable. "I must think on this," Velmora said. "We all must." "You have 48 hours, Daesung replied. "After that my ship leaves, and the next time the Wrath come, you will face them alone." That night, Daesung stood in his quarters aboard the human observation ship. Through the porthole he could see the Concordat fleet. "So beautiful, so doomed," his communicator chimed. Captain Hyunwoo appeared on the screen. "Sir, I have been monitoring their military channels." "They are terrified of us." "Good," Daesung said. "They should be. Will they accept?" "They will. Because the alternative is extinction." Hyunwoo was quiet for a moment. "Sir, if we do this, if we fight their war our way, we will do terrible things. Things they cannot imagine. Things that will change them forever." "I know. And we will do those things anyway. We will do those things because we must. Because someone has to. Because the universe is not fair. And mercy is a luxury that gets people killed." Daesung looked at his cybernetic arm. He had lost the original in a battle 20 years ago. A battle where he had shown no mercy and saved 10,000 lives. "Better we lose pieces of our soul than they lose everything." "Yes, sir." The next day, Dr. Bora approached him in the mess hall. She was young, only 30, with kind eyes that had not yet seen enough death. She was a xenobiologist, studying how different species approached conflict. She had been shocked by what she observed in the Concordat forces. "They think war is a debate," she said, sitting down across from him. "They think if they follow the rules, the universe will reward them. They do not understand that war has no referee." "They are about to learn," Daesung said. "Will it break them? Some, maybe many. But the alternative is worse." 47 hours later, High Chancellor Velmora requested another meeting. Daesung knew the answer before she spoke. He could see it in the way her antenna drooped, in the heaviness of her movements. "We accept your terms," she said. "Come fight for us." "Save us, we will," Daesung promised. "But you may not thank us when it is over." "Will we be alive to regret it?" "Yes." "Then we have made the right choice." Daesung sent the message that night. 3 words that would bring the full might of humanity to this corner of the galaxy. 3 words that would change everything. Begin the deployment. 3 weeks later, they arrived. The human fleet emerged from hyperspace like a swarm of metal predators. 47 warships, each one bristling with weapons that made Concordat admirals uncomfortable just looking at them. No elegant curves, no artistic design, just brutal efficiency and overwhelming firepower. Admiral Ji-won stood on the bridge of the flagship Relentless. She was 56 years old, gray hair cut military short, face lined with scars from battles the Concordat could not imagine. Her reputation had arrived before her fleet. Some called her the Iron Admiral. Others called her the Butcher of Proxima. She did not care what they called her. She cared only about results. The first meeting with Concordat military leadership took place in a conference room too beautiful for what was about to be discussed. Holographic displays showed star maps, fleet positions, enemy movements, everything neat and organized and completely wrong. Admiral G1 reviewed their recent battle reports in silence. The room waited. Concordat generals and admirals shifted nervously. They had heard stories about human military commanders. None of the stories were comforting. Finally, Ji-won spoke. "You are not losing because you are outgunned. The Wrath have fewer ships, older technology, weaker industrial capacity." She looked up at them. Her eyes were cold. "You are losing because you are fighting a war like it is a sporting event. The Wrath are not playing games. Neither will we." "Admiral Ji-won," began Admiral Thex, his blue skin rippling with discomfort. "We understand you have different methods, but surely there are limits, rules that even in war must be followed." Ji-won pulled up her strategic plan. The holographic display filled the room. Every Concordat officer leaned forward to read. Then they leaned back in horror. total orbital bombardment of enemy positions, targeting civilian industrial centers, no quarter for enemy combatants, psychological warfare including broadcasting enemy casualties, scorched earth tactics on any world they retreated from. The list went on. "This is not a battle plan," whispered Commander Resh, a gentle being who glowed softly with inner light. "This is a war crime." "By whose law?" Jiwan asked. "Yours? The Vrath do not follow your laws. They laugh at your rules. Every moment you cling to your precious honor, more of your people die." High Chancellor Velmora had been silent until now. "We asked you here to help us win, not to become like our enemies. You asked us to win your war. This is how wars are won." Jiwan zoomed in on the current front line. "You see these 3 systems? The Vrath took them by landing troops on civilian colonies. They knew you would not bomb your own people, so you sent ground forces. Polite ground forces who announced their arrival and asked civilians to evacuate. The Vrath used that time to dig in, to fortify, to turn your compassion into a shield." She changed the display. "If I were fighting this war, those colonies would already be free, because I would have given the Vrath one warning, leave or burn, and when they did not leave, I would have burned them out. Every base, every bunker, every soldier, gone." "And our people?" Velmora asked quietly. "The civilians caught in between?" "Some would die," Jiwan said without hesitation. "But fewer than will die if this war continues for another year. You can have a clean conscience or you can have victory. Choose." The room fell silent. Ambassador Kyung-hee, the human civilian diplomat, stepped forward. She was older than Jiwan, with kind eyes and a gentle voice. "High Chancellor, I know this is difficult, but you must understand. Humanity learned these lessons in blood, thousands of years of blood. We know that mercy to the cruel is cruelty to the merciful. Every day you delay is a day the Vrath used to kill more of your people. We made a deal," Daesung added from where he stood at the back. "You give us command, we win the war. Are you breaking that deal already?" Velmora looked at her officers. She saw the horror in their faces. She also saw the hope. The tiny, desperate hope that maybe these terrifying humans could actually save them. "Proceed with your plan, Admiral," she said. "May the stars forgive us." "The stars do not care," Jiwan replied, "but your grandchildren will be alive to see them." Captain Hyunwoo received his orders that night. He was given command of a mixed task force, 3 human destroyers and 5 Concordat cruisers. His mission was simple, a demonstration. The target was a mining colony called Bexel 9. The Concordat had lost it 2 months ago. The Vrath were using it as a forward supply base. Standard Concordat doctrine would be to lay siege, cut off supplies, wait for them to surrender. That would take months. Hyunwoo's plan took 6 hours. He briefed his crew and the Concordat officers assigned to his ship. They stared at him like he was insane. No warning, no evacuation notice, just a direct strike in the middle of the night. "This violates 12 different interstellar conventions," protested Commander Yilex, a Concordat officer with too many medals for someone who kept losing. "Yes," Hyunwoo agreed. "It also works. Launch in 3 hours." They emerged from hyperspace at 300 local time. The base below had minimal shields. Why would they need more? The Concordat always announced their attacks, always gave warning, always fought fair. Humanity did not fight fair. The kinetic strike packages were already loaded. Tungsten rods, each one weighing 10 tons. Accelerated to tremendous speed, no explosives needed, pure kinetic energy. "Target locked," reported Lieutenant Tae Yang from the weapons station. He was young, only 24, but his hands were steady. "Firing solution confirmed." "Fire," Hyunwoo said calmly. The rods fell like the judgment of angry gods. They hit the base at orbital velocity. The impact was devastating. Explosions bloomed across the surface. Power plants erupted. Ammunition depots vaporized. In seconds, the entire base was a crater of molten rock and twisted metal. "Prepare marine landing," Hyunwoo ordered. Sir, said Commander Yilex. Nothing could have survived that. Something always survives, and I want 0 enemy survivors when we leave. The Marines landed in the smoking ruins. They found 300 Vrath soldiers scattered across the devastated base. Most were wounded. All were in shock. They had never experienced anything like this. The Concordat soldiers wanted to accept their surrender. The human Marines had different orders. When the smoke cleared 6 hours later, there were no Vrath left alive. Not one. Dr. Bora was on the ship documenting everything. She watched the Concordat officers as they saw the results. Some vomited, some wept, some just stared in numb silence. But she also saw something else. Something that frightened her more than the violence. She saw relief. She saw hope. For the first time in years, they had actually hurt the Vrath. Really hurt them. Is this what victory looks like? Asked Ensign Minho, a young Concordat officer assigned to human forces. His voice shook. No, Doctor, Bora said softly. This is what winning looks like. Victory comes later, if we survive long enough to see it. Captain Hyunwoo's after-action report was transmitted to Admiral Ji-won. It was 1 sentence long. Target eliminated, 0 human casualties, awaiting next assignment. Ji-won read the report and smiled. It was not a kind smile. She immediately sent it to every Concordat military command. Let them see what humans could do. Let them understand what they had unleashed. That night, Commander Dae-sung found Dr. Bora in the observation lounge. She was making notes, her hands shaking slightly. They are horrified, she said, but they are also grateful. How do we live with that? The same way soldiers always have, Dae-sung replied. We do the terrible things so others do not have to. We carry the weight so they can stay clean. But we are teaching them. They are watching us, learning from us. What happens when this war is over, and they have learned to be like us? Dae-sung had no answer for that. It was a question that would haunt them all. Across the galaxy in the command center of the Vrath fleet, Warlord Kresh watched the footage of Bexel 9. He watched it 3 times. Then he gave new orders. These humans fight without honor. We will show them what that truly means. For every base they destroy, we destroy one of their colonies. For every soldier they kill, we kill 10 civilians. The war was about to get much worse, and deep down, Admiral Ji-won knew it. She had known it from the moment she accepted this mission. Because that was the thing about total war. Once you started down that path, there was no easy way back. You could only go forward, through the blood, through the horror, until one side was completely broken. She looked at the star map showing Concordat territory. So many worlds, so many innocent lives depending on her to save them. And the only way to save them was to become the monster the enemy feared. Continue operations, she ordered. Next target, the Vrath fuel depot at Korath Prime, no survivors. The order was transmitted. The machines of war ground forward, and the galaxy learned what it meant when humanity went to war. 4 months into the human campaign, the war had changed completely. The Concordat forces no longer retreated in orderly formations. They struck hard and vanished. They stopped apologizing for collateral damage. They stopped taking prisoners. Under human command, they were winning. But the cost was visible in their eyes. Sergeant Yuna crouched in the darkness of the cargo container, her breathing steady and controlled. Around her, 15 Special Forces soldiers waited. 10 humans, 5 Concordat. They had been hiding in this container for 6 hours, floating in space pretending to be debris from a destroyed transport. Target approaching, whispered Lieutenant Tae Yang through the communications link. Vrath command carrier, right on schedule. The carrier's tractor beam caught the container, pulling it into the cargo bay. Standard salvage procedure. The Vrath were efficient. They recycled everything from battle sites. It was a good habit. Today it would kill them. The container opened. Yuna moved first, her blade finding a guard's throat before he could sound an alarm. The team flowed out like smoke spreading through the cargo bay. Silenced weapons coughed, bodies fell. In 90 seconds, the bay was secure. Phase 1 complete, Yuna reported. Moving to engineering. They moved through the ship like ghosts. The Vrath had good security, but they were looking for external threats. They did not expect enemies already inside. Commander Dae-sung had taught them this lesson. The enemy always expects you to fight the way they fight. So fight differently. In engineering, they planted antimatter charges on the life support system, not to explode, just to leak. Slowly. The crew would suffocate over hours, never knowing what was wrong until too late. Charges set. Yuna confirmed. Extracting. They left the same way they entered, through waste disposal tubes, floating in space in emergency suits, picked up by a stealth shuttle that was gone before the Vrath even noticed something was wrong. 12 hours later, the command carrier went silent. No distress call, no battle, just silence. When other Vrath ships investigated, they found everyone dead, suffocated. The antimatter charges were found days later. By then, Yuna was already planning the next raid. Ensign Minho watched the operation report from the bridge of Captain Hyunwoo's ship. His hands were steady now. He did not shake anymore when he read about deaths. That frightened him more than the deaths themselves. Sergeant Yuna's team eliminated another command vessel. He reported, "No casualties on our side." "Good," Hyunwoo said simply. "Target the next one." Minho had been assigned to human forces as a liaison, to learn their methods, to report back to Concordat Command. What he had learned was that humans approached war like machines. No emotion, no hesitation, just cold calculation and colder execution. He had asked Hyunwoo about it once. "How do you stay so calm, so detached?" Hyunwoo had looked at him with eyes that seemed much older than his face. "Because emotion gets people killed. I can feel bad about what I do after the war. During the war, I just do what needs to be done." The Vrath were learning to adapt. After losing 3 command carriers to infiltration, they increased security. They scanned all debris. They stopped salvage operations entirely, so humanity changed tactics. Admiral Jiwon studied the new Vrath defensive patterns. They were getting smarter, matching human ruthlessness with their own brutality. Good. That made them predictable. A report came in. A Concordat hospital ship had been attacked, destroyed with all hands. 2,000 medical personnel dead. It was a clear violation of every convention of war. The Concordat command requested an emergency meeting. They wanted to protest, to send a message condemning the attack, to appeal to the Vrath's better nature. Jiwon listened to their proposals with growing impatience. Finally, she stood up. "How much did the hospital ship weigh?" she asked. "What?" High Chancellor Velmora was confused. "The tonnage. How much did it weigh?" 30,000 tons. "Why does that matter?" Jiwon pulled up a list of Vrath civilian shipping. Transport vessels, colony ships, merchant carriers. She highlighted 5 of them. Total tonnage, 150,000 tons, 5 times the weight of the hospital ship. "These ships will be destroyed within 24 hours, she said calmly. No warning, no survivors. The room erupted in protest. This was murder. This was terrorism. This was becoming what they fought against. "They killed medical personnel," Jiwon said, her voice cutting through the noise. "Unarmed doctors and nurses. So we will kill 5 times that number of their civilians. This is the lesson. Every time they escalate, we escalate more. Until they learn that breaking the rules costs them more than it gains them." "You are talking about mass murder," Ambassador Kyung-hee said quietly. Even she, the human diplomat, looked disturbed. "I am talking about deterrence," Jiwon replied. "They need to understand that there is no profit in atrocity, that every civilian they kill will cost them 5. Every convention they break will break them 5 times worse." "And if they escalate further?" demanded Velmora. "Then we escalate further, until one side blinks, until one side decides that the cost is too high." Jiwon's face was stone. "I promise you, we will not blink first." The order was given. 5 Vrath civilian ships were destroyed, 3 colony transports, 2 merchant carriers, 17,000 civilians dead in total. No warning, no chance to evacuate. Warlord Kresh received the news in his command center. He watched the footage of the attacks. Then he composed a message and transmitted it directly to Admiral Jiwan. You fight without honor. You kill without mercy. You are animals pretending to be civilized. We will show you what true savagery means. Jiwan's response was broadcast across both fleets. Her face filled every screen. Her voice was steady and cold. Honor is a luxury we gave up so our children could survive. We know what we are. We know what we have become. And when you are all dead, we will reclaim our honor. Until then, we will be exactly as savage as we need to be. Test us again and see what happens. The message ended. In the silence that followed, something shifted in the war. The Vrath began to fear humanity, not respect them, not hate them, fear them, because the humans fought with the cold certainty of machines that would not stop, could not be reasoned with, and would accept any cost to achieve victory. Dr. Borah documented everything. Her research was becoming darker with each passing week. She had started this assignment studying alien combat psychology. Now she was studying what happened when peaceful species learned to make war. She interviewed concordate soldiers serving alongside humans. The pattern was disturbing. They were adopting human tactics, not because they were ordered to, but because they worked. Because when you watched your friends die for years following rules the enemy ignored, you eventually stopped following the rules too. One soldier, a gentle being named Resh who had once been a teacher, told her something that made her blood run cold. I used to hesitate before firing, Resh said. His voice was empty, mechanical. I used to check if there were civilians nearby. I used to feel bad when I killed. Now I just kill. The humans taught me that hesitation gets your friends killed. So I do not hesitate anymore. Do you think that is a good thing? Borah asked. Resh looked at her with eyes that had seen too much death. I think it is necessary. Whether it is good or not does not matter. Good is a luxury. Necessary is reality. She reported her findings to Commander Dae-sung. They met in a quiet room far from the command centers and battle reports. They are becoming like us, she said. The concordate soldiers. They are learning our methods, our ruthlessness. What have we done to them? Dae-sung was quiet for a long time. We have saved them and damaged them. Both things are true. Will they ever go back to what they were? I do not know. War changes people. Sometimes those changes are permanent. That night another battle was fought over a contested moon. Lieutenant Tai Yang led a marine assault against a fortified Vrath position. The fighting was brutal. Close quarters, no room for mercy. Tai Yang took 3 critical wounds. A blade through his side. Burns from an energy weapon, a broken arm. He kept fighting. When his ammunition ran out, he used his combat knife. When he could barely stand, he still advanced. Because that was what human soldiers did. They did not stop. They did not surrender. They fought until victory or death. Reinforcements arrived. Tai Yang survived. Barely. In the medical bay, Ensign Min-ho visited him. How can you fight like that? Min-ho asked. How can you be so ruthless, so willing to die? Tai Yang looked at him through drugged, heavy eyes. Because we have been fighting and dying for thousands of years. Your people forgot what war really is. We never did. We never could. Our history is written in blood. Every generation taught the next how to survive, how to fight, how to win no matter the cost. But at what price? Any price. Every price. Because the alternative is extinction. And we will never let that happen. Not to us. Not to our allies. Tai Yang's eyes closed. We are monsters, so you do not have to be. Remember that when you hate us for what we do. Min-ho left the medical bay with tears in his eyes. He was starting to understand. These humans were not evil. They were not cruel for pleasure. They were survivors of countless wars who had learned that mercy to enemies was cruelty to friends. And now they were teaching that lesson to everyone they fought beside. The war ground on. 17 major operations in 4 months. The war room was silent as Admiral Jiwan displayed the intelligence reports. The Vrath had been pushed back across 3 sectors. Their fleets were shattered. Their supply lines were broken. Only one target remained, their homeworld. The holographic display showed the planet in brutal detail. 4 billion Vrath civilians, thousands of military installations scattered among cities, orbital defense platforms, ground-based shields, and intelligence suggesting the Vrath leadership would use every civilian as a shield rather than surrender. "We have 2 options," Jiwan said, her voice as cold as the void outside. "Option 1 is a ground invasion. We land troops, fight city by city, building by building. Conservative estimates suggest 18 months of combat. Casualties would be in the millions. Both sides." She changed the display. "Option 2 is complete orbital bombardment. We saturate the planet with kinetic strikes. Military targets, industrial centers, power grids, communication hubs. We destroy their ability to resist. The war ends in 3 weeks. Civilian casualties would be catastrophic, but the war ends." High Chancellor Velamora stared at the display. Her antenna trembled. "You are describing genocide." "I am describing victory," Jiwan replied. "Fast, decisive, and final." "This is too far," Velamora said. "We cannot do this. We asked you to help us win, not to murder billions. Then you are condemning millions more to death in a prolonged ground war. Concordat soldiers, human marines, all dying slowly when we could end this quickly." Jiwan's face showed no emotion. "This is the price I told you about. This is what winning costs." General Huan, commander of human ground forces, spoke for the first time. He was a large man, scarred and tired. "Admiral, we need to talk privately." They met in a smaller room. Just the senior human commanders. Daisung, Jiwan, Huan, Captain Hyunwoo, and Ambassador Kyung-hee. "I have been tracking psychological evaluations of our troops," Huan said. He pulled up data streams. "Kill counts are rising. Restraint is disappearing. Rules of engagement that we started with are being ignored. Our people are not following orders to show mercy anymore, because there have been no orders to show mercy for months. That is the nature of this war," Jiwan said. "No, that is what we have made this war." Huan looked at each of them. "We came here to save the Concordat, but we are losing ourselves in the process. If we glass that planet, if we murder billions, what are we? What do we become?" "We become the victors," Jiwan said flatly. "We become what we are fighting against," Ambassador Kyung-hee said quietly. "I have been silent too long. I have watched us cross line after line. I told myself it was necessary, that the Concordat needed us to be ruthless. But this is not ruthlessness. This is annihilation." Commander Daesung had been silent, his cybernetic arm whirring softly as he thought. Finally he spoke. "I agree with the ambassador. If we do this, we prove that the Vrath were right about us, that we are monsters, that humanity is a threat to the galaxy. The galaxy is full of threats," Jiwan said. "We survive by being the biggest one." "No," Daesung said. "We survive by being smart, by knowing when to be ruthless and when to hold back. This is the moment we hold back and throw away victory. Risk more lives? Yes, because some victories are not worth the price." The argument raged for hours. Jiwan insisted that sentiment would get more people killed. Huan argued that humanity's soul was worth more than a quick victory. Hyunwoo stayed quiet, clearly torn. Ambassador Kyung-hee spoke of humanity's future, of what kind of species they wanted to be. Finally, Daesung ended it. "We will take this to the Concordat. Let them decide. It is their war. Let them choose what kind of victory they want." That night, Priestess Lyra arrived at the fleet. She was a spiritual leader of the Concordat, revered by billions. She had been silent throughout the war, praying for peace while watching her people learn to make war. She requested permission to address both human and Concordat forces. Admiral Jiwan wanted to refuse. Daesung overruled her. Lyra's speech was broadcast to every ship, to every soldier, human and alien alike. Her voice was gentle but carried the weight of absolute conviction. "I thank humanity for their sacrifice, for fighting our war, for saving our people. You have bled for us, died for us, become monsters for us." She paused. "But I beg you now, do not take the final step. Do not become the thing we fear. Do not destroy billions to save millions, because if you do, we will have survived, but we will have lost everything that made survival worthwhile." She continued, "I have watched my people change. I have watched gentle beings learn to kill without hesitation. I have watched teachers become soldiers, artists become warriors. You taught us how to survive, but in teaching us we lost something precious. And I fear if we follow you to the end of this path we will lose everything. There must be another way. There must be a path to victory that does not require us to exterminate billions. I do not know what it is. But I beg you, find it, please. Show us that you are not just efficient killers. Show us that you are still human. The speech ended. In the silence that followed, something shifted. Not just in the concordant forces. In the humans, too. Dr. Bora found Commander Daesung watching the stars. That speech will change everything, she said. I hope so, Daesung replied. Because Jiwon is right about one thing. We are running out of time. If we do not end this war soon, the Wrath will regroup, rebuild, and we will be back here in 10 years, fighting the same war. So we need another way. Yes, we need a way to win without becoming what we hate. Captain Hyunwoo assembled a planning team, humans and Concordate working together. They studied the intelligence on the Wrath homeworld, looked for weaknesses, alternatives, anything that could end the war without mass civilian casualties. Lieutenant Tai Yang, recovered from his wounds, proposed the idea. The Wrath Leadership Compound. It is separate from the main cities. If we could take it out, eliminate their command structure, maybe the rest would surrender. That is a suicide mission, said Commander Yilex. The compound is the most heavily defended location on the planet. You would need to fight through their entire military to reach it. Then we fight through their entire military, Tae-young said simply. They developed the plan over 3 days. A surgical strike, drop pods directly onto the compound. A small force, maybe 200 soldiers, fight through the defenses, eliminate the Wrath leadership. Broadcast the victory, demand surrender. The odds were terrible. Intelligence suggested 70% casualties minimum. Possibly total loss, but it was a chance to win without genocide. They presented the plan to Admiral Ji-won. She reviewed it in silence. Then she shook her head. This is suicide. We would lose most of the assault force. For what? A chance that the Wrath might surrender? For a chance to win the right way, Daesung said. There is no right way in war. Only winning and losing. Then let us prove you wrong. Ji-won stared at him. You really want to throw away lives on this fool's hope? I want to prove we are more than efficient killers. That we can be ruthless when needed but human when possible. The plan required volunteers. It would be dangerous. Possibly fatal. They made the call fleet-wide. Every human soldier volunteered. Every single one. But so did half the concordant forces. Beings who months ago could not imagine killing now volunteered for a suicide mission. Because they had learned not just how to fight but what was worth fighting for. Ensign Minho was among the volunteers. When asked why, he said simply, because you taught me that some things are worth dying for. Let me prove I learned the lesson. Ambassador Kyung-hee watched the volunteers assemble, thousands of them, ready to die for a chance at victory without genocide. She found herself crying. Not from sadness, from pride. They learned the wrong lessons and the right lessons both, she said to Dr. Bora. What do you mean? They learned to be ruthless, to fight without mercy, to kill without hesitation. All the wrong lessons, she wiped her eyes. But they also learned to sacrifice, to value something more than survival, to choose the hard path because it is right. Those are the right lessons. Admiral Ji-won finally gave her approval, not because she believed in the plan, but because Daesung made her understand something. We came here to save them. If we abandon our humanity to do it, what have we really saved? The assault force assembled. 200 of the best soldiers from both species. Sergeant Yuna would lead the Special Forces element. Lieutenant Tae-yang would command the Marine ground assault. Captain Hyunwoo would coordinate from orbit. And Commander Daesung would go with them. Because he would not ask others to take risks he would not share. The night before the assault, General Hwan spoke to the troops. Tomorrow we attempt something that should be impossible. We will probably die. But if we succeed, we prove something important. We prove that we are not just survivors. We are not just killers. We are beings who choose how we fight and why we fight. Who remember that how we win matters as much as winning itself, he paused. Admiral Ji-won thinks this is foolish sentiment. Maybe she is right. But I would rather die trying to do this the right way than live knowing we became monsters to survive. The troops cheered. Not because they were unafraid, But because they had chosen, they had decided what kind of victors they would be, and in that choice they had already won something more important than the war. The drop pods fell through the atmosphere like meteors. Inside each pod, soldiers waited in silence. 200 warriors, human and concordate, falling towards certain death and possible victory. Sergeant Yuna checked her weapons one final time. Around her, the Special Forces team did the same. They would hit first, clear the outer defenses, create a path for the main assault. It was the most dangerous assignment. She had volunteered without hesitation. The pod hit hard. The door blasted open. Yuna rolled out into hell. The Vrath compound was a fortress, walls 50 feet high. Automated turrets, energy shields, thousands of soldiers, all of it designed to stop an army. The humans had brought 200. Yuna's team moved like lightning. They had trained for this, studied every detail. They knew exactly where to strike. Explosives on the shield generators, electromagnetic pulses on the turrets, close combat in the corridors where Vrath advantages in numbers meant less. Lieutenant Taeyang's Marines landed 30 seconds later. They pushed forward while Yuna's team held the flanks. The fighting was brutal. Every meter cost blood, but they moved forward. Always forward, Commander Dae Sung fought alongside Ensign Minho. The young concordate officer had come far from the frightened observer of months ago. Now he moved with confidence, his weapon finding targets with practiced ease. The humans had taught him well, perhaps too well. A Vrath soldier emerged from a doorway. Minho killed him without hesitation, then another. And another. No mercy, no pause, just efficient violence. Dae Sung watched and felt a pang of regret. They had changed these gentle beings forever, but there was no time for regret. Only survival. Captain Hyunwoo coordinated from orbit, watching through drone feeds as his people died. Every fallen soldier was a name he knew, a face he remembered. The casualties mounted. 20 dead, 30, 50, 70% losses, just as predicted. Admiral Ji-won is requesting permission to begin orbital bombardment, reported his communications officer. She says we are losing too many people. Tell her no, Hyunwoo said through gritted teeth. We finish this mission or we die trying. No bombardment. They pushed deeper into the compound. The Vrath fought with desperation. This was their leadership. Their home. They would not give it up easily. But desperation could not match the cold determination of soldiers who had already accepted death. Sergeant Yuna breached the inner sanctum. The room where Vrath commanders coordinated the entire war. Security was heavy. She lost half her team in the first 30 seconds. But the survivors pushed through. Grenades. Gunfire. Close combat in tight spaces where training mattered more than numbers. And then, they were inside. Warlord Kresh stood at the center of the command room. Around him, his officers reached for weapons. Yuna cut them down. Her team secured the room in seconds. Only Kresh remained standing. Commander Dae Sung entered the room, bleeding from multiple wounds. He faced Kresh across the bodies of the fallen. It is over, Dae Sung said. Kresh laughed. A harsh, bitter sound. You think killing me ends this? You think you have won? Look at what you have become. Look at what you have done. You came here claiming to be better than us, but you fought just as dirty, killed just as ruthlessly. You have already lost. You lost your souls winning this war. Dae Sung met his eyes. We became what we needed to be. Now we choose what we will be next. That is the difference between us and you. We can change. We can be monsters when we must and humans when we can. Pretty words from a killer. Yes, I am a killer. I have done terrible things in this war, things that will haunt me until I die. But I did them to save billions, to protect the innocent. What did you do them for? Conquest, glory, power? Dae Sung raised his weapon. You are right that we lost something here, but you lost everything. The shot echoed in the command room. Warlord Kresh fell. The war's architect, dead. Lieutenant Taeyang secured the communication systems. He broadcast a message to every Vrath military unit. The same message. Over and over. Your leadership is dead. Your homeworld is surrounded. You have lost. Surrender now and you will be treated with honor. Continue fighting and you will be destroyed. Choose. For long minutes there was no response. The assault force waited, bleeding and exhausted. They had won. But would it matter? Then slowly, Vrath units began transmitting surrender codes. Not all of them. Not at first. But enough. One fleet, then another, then a dozen. The cascade of surrenders spread across the sector. Within 6 hours, the war was over. The cost had been exactly as predicted. 142 of the 200 assault soldiers were dead. The survivors were wounded, broken, but alive, and they had ended the war without genocide. Admiral Jiwan stood on the bridge of the Relentless watching the surrender. She did not smile, did not celebrate. She just looked tired, very tired. They did it, said her executive officer. They actually did it. Yes, Jiwan said quietly. They proved me wrong. I am not sure if I am angry or relieved. Maybe both. Admiral, maybe both. 6 months later, the victory celebration on the Concordat homeworld was elaborate. Parades, speeches, awards. The galaxy honored those who had saved them from extinction. Admiral Jiwan did not attend. She had led the human fleet home 3 months earlier. She could not face the celebrations, could not accept awards for the things she had done, the things she had ordered, the people she had killed. Before leaving, she had submitted her resignation. It was denied. The human government insisted she had only done what was necessary, but Jiwan knew better. She knew the weight of her choices. The price of victory. General Huan remained behind. He worked with Concordat military to rebuild their forces, but he insisted on something new. Training programs that taught both human and Concordat methods, how to fight with ruthless efficiency when needed, but also when to show mercy, when to hold back, when to remember that how you win matters. Learn to fight like us if you must, he told Concordat officers, but never forget what you were. That innocence, that honor, that is what made you worth defending. Do not lose it completely. We lost too much of ours. Do not repeat our mistakes. Dr. Bora published her research. The paper was titled, The Contagion of War, How Human Ruthlessness Saved and Changed the Galactic Concordat. Her conclusion was controversial but honest. Humanity had won the war through superior ruthlessness, through willingness to do anything to achieve victory, but the final battle proved something important. They had not lost themselves completely. They had known when to be ruthless and when to hold back. That choice, that ability to restrain their own worst instincts, was what truly made them dangerous, and what made them human. High Chancellor Velamora read the paper 3 times. Then she invited Commander Daesung to a private meeting. I wanted to thank you, she said, but I am not sure if thanks are appropriate. You saved us, but you also changed us forever. I know, Daesung said, and I am sorry for that. We gave you the tools to survive, but those tools come with a cost. Do you think we made the right choice, asking for your help? Daesung looked out at the Concordat homeworld, at the cities rebuilt, at the children playing in parks, unaware of how close they had come to extinction, at the future that almost was not. Ask them in 50 years, he said. If they remember what we did and choose to be better than us, then yes. If they forget and become what we are, then no. The answer depends on what you do with the peace we won for you. That is a heavy responsibility. Yes, but it is yours to carry now. We carried it through the war. You must carry it through the peace. Velamora was quiet for a moment. Will you stay? Help us find that balance? No, I must go home. Face what I have become. Carry my own weight. Daesung stood to leave. But I will give you one piece of advice. Teach your children about this war. Do not hide it. Do not pretend it was glorious. Show them the cost. Show them what we had to become, and then teach them to never let it happen again. That night, Daesung stood in his quarters packing his few belongings. Priestess Lyra came to see him. She had aged in the last months. The war had been hard on everyone, even those who did not fight. I wanted to ask you something, she said. Was it worth it? All the killing, all the horror, all the things you had to become. Was it worth it? Daesung looked at her for a long moment. I do not know. I saved billions, but I lost count of how many I killed to do it. I destroyed enemy soldiers who were just following orders. I made decisions that ended lives, changed futures, broke families. He paused. Every night I see their faces, human, Vrath, Concordat, all the dead, and I ask myself the same question. What answer do you find? That it was necessary, that there was no other choice, that someone had to carry this weight. He looked at his cybernetic arm. But necessary and right are not the same thing. I will carry this guilt for the rest of my life. That is my price for victory. Will you ever forgive yourself? No, and I should not. Forgiveness would mean forgetting. And if I forget, I might do it again, might convince myself that the ends justify the means. The guilt is important. It reminds me what I am capable of, and helps me choose not to be that person anymore. Priestess Lyra touched his hand gently. Thank you for saving us. And I am sorry for what it cost you. I made the choice. I live with the consequences. That is what soldiers do. The transport ship left the next day. Commander Dae Sung stood at the viewport,